All right, so Monk is probably the most controversial class in D&D 5e. Main reasons being this is meant to be a midliner that just doesn't get the midliner tools quite well. Big reason there is that they have the one key point block out of them disengaging that needs to just be given to them for free. Wizards of the Coast apparently is not really going to do that with the future Monk, so I think that the future Monk is going to suffer most of the same issues of what we're already seeing in the current 5e Monk. If you fix that, the Monk is actually looking pretty decent. The changes that they're making with its martial arts die are looking pretty good, where I would say that Monk is likely going to perform fairly well in the new edition with the one change that I'm asking for Wizards of the Coast to make. I'm going to just talk really briefly about 4 elements here real quick. With 4 elements, the key problem with this right here is, I guess it is the key problem right here. The big problem with Monk right here on the 4 elements is that they tried to figure out a formula to make it to where spell slots, or to where key could eventually convert over into spell slots. But spell slots are by convention a long rest resource. And with key being a short rest resource, they tried to be a little bit more conservative on the budget as to how they would do that. With 4 elements, what I'm going to recommend right now, just straight up right now, go on ahead and use the UA one that they made. That is a significant fix to it. The current 4 elements Monk is just not in a good state, period. If you're trying to play a Monk and you want to go 4 elements because you want the avatar thing, the current 4 elements thing is not the way to do it. I would highly suggest picking up the UA, giving the Monk from the UA disengage for free as a bonus action, and then you're looking at a pretty solid class overall. Open hand, I think this one is probably, I'm going to put up here into the bottom barrel of decent pick. Open hand is the vanilla Monk. It's okay at doing the vanilla Monk stuff. Tranquility, as it turns out, I'm actually not as big of a fan as I originally thought I would be. Whenever I was first looking at the game, I thought that this is perfect at capturing that idea of pacifism and giving you a slight reward to potentially doing that. Hey, what up, Tin Can? But as it turns out, this is a decent for shrugging off like maybe potentially like 1 instance of damage if you don't do anything that first turn of combat, but it's just not really great otherwise. Honestly, Tranquility could have been at the end of a short rest, and I still would probably think that this is not a fantastic feature. Quivering Palm is cool, I guess, but it's kind of It is silly, right? This is the Kill Bill, like, what is it? The 3-finger death punch, whatever it is, 5-finger death punch, 5-point, whatever. This is touching on a really classic, like, Monk trope. I think that really with the open hand, decent pick is about as much as I can get it. Again, if you go with the changes that I recommended with disengage and then upping their martial arts die, I feel like open hand is probably going to be winding up around A, despite the fact that their 11th level feature. If you allowed that to come back on a short rest, I would still probably think that they're probably about B, maybe going A. Yeah. Long Death. I have a weird opinion about this one. I don't like it. It's from Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. So, like, we already know that this one is not designed like a conventional 5e subclass. Long Death is something that I would put into overpowered because of the whack-a-mole situations that can come up with it. That does not necessarily mean that I think that this is a good one. I think that this is overpowered for that one, whenever you die, you can spend 1 key point to get back up. Do the Chumbawamba, you know, get knocked down, get back up again shit with this Monk. But despite all that, it does have one feature that I think is probably going to overperform, just that Mastery of Death. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. The 11th level feature, like, this is definitely good. It's just, I don't really dig what this is going for here. This is going to create whack-a-mole situations at your table. This right here, Bag of Ratsable. When you reduce a creature within 5 feet of you to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your wisdom modifier plus your monk level. Notice that this doesn't say anything about how dangerous the creature needs to be, the fact that it needs to be hostile to you or anything like that. This is Bag of Rats. This is a problem. You're getting a resource here for free. You're a monk that's going to walk around with a bag of rats, punch it whenever you want some hit points or some temporary hit points, and there you go. I think there could be a cool vibe going out of this monk, but it's just not really well put together. Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide was one of the more poorly produced books that they ever did for 5e, and I think even like Wizards of the Coast is acknowledging, like, yeah, that one was not super fantastic. It's not really well put together as a monk subclass, despite the fact that okay, how do I say this? I'm going to put it in overpowered, and I know that that's going to be a controversial pick here, because the monk is not great. And I think people see the overpowered ones and they're like, oh, well, those must mean that they're like the strongest in the game or whatever. Well, design wise, what I'm saying is it has a mechanic in there that we know is exploitable. I don't think that this is a good one to have in the game. I don't think it's good for the game. It's worth a ban. That's, yeah, poorly designed and played as intended. It honestly feels like it makes monk durable enough to stay in the front lines 100% of the time, just like a fighter or barbarian, but still deal far less damage. Yeah, like you might chip away at them, you might get your stunning strike off and all that, but like, this one ain't for me, man. I think that there's other ways that they could have achieved this, and yeah. Kinsei. I haven't actually seen anybody try this one out. This is one that's going to be hard for me to judge. I think that there are some elements of Kinsei that if you use the variant stuff in Tasha's could be kind of okay. There's stuff from Tasha's that it seemed like they gave you in order to like beef up this subclass in particular. It may have gotten a little bit better after Tasha's. This is tricky. If it worked well in the monk kit, maybe this one could be cool. I have just never found this as like a source of inspiration. Other monks are already getting this for free, essentially, except it's not weapons, right? Like with the Kinsei, there's a problem of there's some magical items that you could get that you can't really attune to. And it's like, meh, you know? Yeah, I think that the fairest way for Kinsei, I mean, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time analyzing these really. With Kinsei, I think that it's fair to put it in the top end of C. You can play this one out, but it also just doesn't really feel very 5e. And that's kind of hard to define. They give you stuff to overcome like what is kind of one of the hurdles with Monk and like not getting weapons and stuff. And then because they do that, they spend so much of the power budget on it, on trying to make the weapons workable for you. It's tricky. I don't really think that this is all that fantastic with subclass. Someone could come along and absolutely convince me otherwise, but this is not really the key part of any build necessarily that I've heard of that does anything that goes absolutely off the rails. Kinsei, I think, is pretty underwhelming, and I would probably just call it viable but milquetoast. You could play it, sure. It just doesn't feel quite right. Mercy. Mercy's another one that's tricky. As far as if you compare it to every other monk, I think it's the best monk. I don't really dig the flavor of what they're going for with Mercy, but that's a personal thing for me. You say it's a flavor. Yeah, like it's not really a great hit for me. I would have been really down to see what they do with a martialist, like doing just the medic thing, and that could have been really cool. But I think that they were really hesitant to give you a subclass that didn't dish out damage. So they felt the need to have to stack stuff on kind of consistently. You do get a form of non-magical healing here that's decent. Yeah, like I don't want to make too many assessments based off of the flavor. Hand of Ultimate Mercy, though. What feature name is this? Yeah. Because it's attached to the monk chassis, it's probably the only reason it's getting down here this low. Although I think that Mercy, compared to every other monk, is probably like way up here, right? In terms of like, if we're just talking about monk as a class, I'd probably put it up here. I think Mercy going into B, like right middle of the roads, is pretty all right. Mercy is short rest, lay on hands, if I recall. Yeah, like, but I have a really hard time recommending that people play this one. I feel like it's going to overperform compared to every other monk. And the big thing that they need to fix is actually getting all the other monks brought up to par. If Mercy is your baseline for where you want monks to really hit, then every other monk needs to be brought up to here. And once you do, I think that's really easy to address in the base class. Then this one can start to get some nerfs. I really think that this one needs to probably get rid of the Hand of Harm. This is such a nothing feature to me. I think it's way more interesting to embrace it as a healer. Please, like, give Monk a cool healer. That would be so dope for D&D. I guess that's kind of my only thoughts on that. I don't know, chat. It'd be fair? I don't know. They went with a bizarre aesthetic for it that I'm not a huge fan of. Typically, if they root something so hard into a campaign setting like Forgotten Realms, it tends to be a flop for me. But yeah, like B sound fine. Are we happy with B? We good with B, everybody? Are we good with B, everybody? It's the only viable class monk according to Treant Monk. Yeah, he really hates the monk a lot more than I do. I don't like the monk, but I also think that monk is probably highest I would put any monk subclass is like probably B or maybe A. It's funny how the Mercy monk deals the best damage out of all the monks. Yeah. Right. Any hot takes you missed? Probably the only one that I really said that I think people are most likely going to be like, what the hell is this guy thinking? Is putting Long Death up here, but I feel like it's pretty fair. I made a pretty decent argument as to why. Yeah. He's very strict with average damage calculations. Yeah. Okay, Shadow. This one got a huge glow up in the new playtest thing that we saw with him. Shadow looks really good in the new one. However, this one is verging on broken and non-functional for me for the fact that it gives you darkness as a spell that you can't see through. That is really weird. That was a very, very odd decision, and I think it was just an oversight. I think that it belongs probably around here, probably at the top of D. I think that it's a pretty poor one, but it's not like it's unplayable. If you give it the ability to see through its own dark vision, like what they're doing with the newest Unearthed Arcana, and make that darkness a little bit cheaper for them, this becomes a really interesting option here, where I think that Shadow could actually be probably up here in A, if not S. There's some homebrew tweaks that you can make to make the Shadow Monk absolutely viable. Absolutely. Being able to see through your own darkness that you can create is a thing that you have to do to it to make this viable. As far as I'm concerned, yes, that's what you have to do. The Shadow Step is very, very cool. However, it does have the oddity of, I guess, rules lawyers getting to it, to where you can throw a blanket over yourself and then just get this thing to work. And it's, yeah, this, again, while you're in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use your action to become invisible. You throw the blanket over you and you can apparently do this. There's some odd stuff you can make happen with this one that makes it to where I would say that Shadow is probably in the broken and non-functional area, but it works. And that's a weird thing for me. This has some aspects to it that would make me think that this needs to be up in here because of the blanket thing. But it's not that good. It's not good. I would say it's probably lower than War. Man, I think it's just above Arcane Archer. Yeah, it's also just a disruptive mechanic in itself. Yeah, for sure. I think that it's fair to put Shadow Monk here. I would definitely rather play one over 4 elements in its current state. I would still probably rather play Shadow than Kinsei, despite knowing that Shadow is worse. Like, yeah, I like the flavor more. This feels more like a monk that I could get behind, you know? Yeah. But in the new UA, they did actually give this one a glow up that I think is going to make this one actually one of the better monks we're going to have in the game. Astral Self. I have a funny history with this one. Oh, Ascendant Dragon. I honestly forgot about that one. Okay, so whenever we first saw this in the Unearthed Arcana, this was the first subclass I think that wound up getting me some attention because I called out an exploit that happened in the 17th level feature where you could just keep regenerating your ki. And people were like, what? And then sure as shit, the next time we saw it, that feature was deleted. There are some aspects of this one, as it appeared in the Unearthed Arcana, that were just too good. I still think that there's some aspects of Astral Self that actually make this right around here with Mercy. I think that Astral Self most likely is probably right behind Mercy. You think it's a C? Let me get a refresher. So single ability dependency on Wisdom in here is very, very good. You can use the Spectral Arms to make unarmed strikes, and then the reach is 5 foot greater than normal. The unarmed strikes you make with arms can do your Wisdom modifier in places of your Strength or Dexterity modifier, yada, 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 right? So we're looking at a very single ability dependent monk happening right here. You might think that it's weak as hell. The thing is that whenever you're investing so much into Wisdom here, this one can actually take off a little bit quicker than some other monks. It's not going to be overall throughout the game immediately better, but here at the first, at this next level, whenever you just invest whole hog into Wisdom, this one starts actually doing really well. Visage of the Astral Self. Yeah. They give you this and they didn't give it to the Shadow Monk. So sad. So sad. I personally don't really look too much at the damage numbers. Like I said before, like yesterday and everything like that, damage numbers aren't really the thing that makes me like perk up and go, aha, yeah, right? I'm more so looking at what it's doing that's like interesting narratively, mechanically, and is it doing something within the action economy that makes me think this is unique in a special way, and it really improves the core fiction of the base class. This does the JoJo's stand thing. This is essentially making it to where this is kind of like you're doing a critical hit on every attack. Well, it's once on each of your turns, never mind. Yeah. Look, I think that this one has some flexibility on this. I actually think that Astral Self is probably on par with Mercy. It's going to increase your stunning strike DC as well. Yep. And you have more punches that you can do with a stunning strike. Yeah, I think that Astral Self is probably a decent pick. This is totally a playable monk, despite the fact that the monk chassis is not super great. I think that it's probably on par with Mercy, is what I would feel. Ascendant Dragon, I haven't seen anybody play this one. You do get flexible damage types in here, but monk is eventually going to not really care too much about this because it just becomes better for you to go with the magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Well, the magical bludgeoning, I guess. Breath of the Dragon. Blah. The wings unfurled. You get this flying speed. It's meh. Meh. You know. Yellow Dragon Monk for one thing. Elemental punches at will. I love being able to swap fire for cold. Oh yeah, like that's cool, but it feels like my problem with a lot of the dragon subclasses is that they have to do particular things, or else people are going to think that it doesn't feel like a dragon subclass. So whenever you make one like this, it's like if it doesn't have specific features, people are going to be upset about it. I just think that this one is going to feel like, hey, do you know what it feels like to play a Dragonborn? Here's a lot of those features kind of expanded out. It does have some blasting potential, which makes it unique. It is definitely better than 4 elements. It is just not my favorite thing in the world. The Dragon Monk that can't fly, it has the wings unfurled thing, which is like, okay. Love what I did with the Dragon Zodiac with it being themed around legends and mentorship. Yeah, I like, that was the thing. I tried to figure out like where all else you could go with dragons as a theme. I tried to kind of put that challenge on myself for the Dragon Zodiac sign and then the Draconic Mine Sovereign, because that Draconic Mine Sovereign is based completely off of Fire Emblem, where like in the shapeshifter aspect of some dragons and whatnot, you know. So you get like the Dragon Companion that's really early on, influenced by like Daenerys. And then eventually you like, whenever you do level up, it does give you the transformation to turn into a dragon as per like the shape change spell. So like, I tried to lean in on some other aspects of it. Because it feels like if it doesn't get Dragon's Breath, it just doesn't feel like it's a 5e subclass or something for dragons. And yeah, it seems to upset some people. But yeah, I think that this is most likely better than Kensei. It is blaster potential that you have in here, but like, the Fire Emblem Manakete. Yeah. That's where I got that is the inspiration for the Sovereign. The only thing I'll say about this that's pushing it up into here is that I think that Ascendant Dragon does do something that's unique in the monk, but like it's throwing on dragon flavor, which is just blaster potential onto a striker. All right. Yeah, I'll give it that. Sun Soul. I don't think I've ever had a review that I completely let my bias take over quite like Sun Soul did. I was so excited for this one whenever it first came out. And like, I was really inexperienced as a YouTube creator. Like, I think in my first like 3 months of doing YouTube stuff, I did a Sun Soul monk breakdown. And boy, I definitely went into that with rose colored sunglasses. This is a monk that wants to do blasting thing. It gets some range potential in here, but it just doesn't really work out all that well within the monk kit, because one of the strongest parts of the monk kit is Stunning Strike. And this subclass, you can't Stunning Strike with Radiant Sunbolt. You do get a ranged option here, but there's a lot of all filler, no killer in this. This is an anime as fuck subclass that just doesn't really work out within the kit. It does need a total rework. Yep. It just does not embrace the fact that this is a monk. You know, it doesn't really look at the base class and take much of any inspiration from anything other than Ki. I think the problem that happened was in the Unearthed Arcana for it, people got so like weeb visioned on this one that we were like, oh yeah, anime is Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, all right. And then we get it and then we actually play it and it's like, oh no, this is fucking terrible. Oh boy, the fact that they're missing out on Stunning Strike is rough, very rough. Yeah, and you get a weaker version of Fireball at 15th level. It's just, this is not super great. This has been probably my worst review I ever did, because I completely let all of my biases on how cool I wanted this one to be. Yeah, like I said, this is like my first 3 months into YouTube, and really only kind of my second or third year really into the D&D scene. I thought this one was so super cool. It turns out it's just not. I think even with the stuff that they did for it in Tasha's, it's just not great. I still think it's better than 4 elements. I don't think it's as good as Shadow. I think it's better than 4 elements. I would rather play it than Storm Herald. Yeah, I think that's probably about fair. Close to Berserker levels of bad? I don't know, maybe. It does definitely like hurt the heart of what it means to be a monk. You dig the Laser Llama version of Sun Soul though. You play it in the cyberpunk setting as someone who's a gamer and manifest pixel / non-neon or neon light gamer style using a baseball bat into a 16-bit baseball. That sounds like a cocaine-fueled 5e experience. Tasha's didn't even help it out that much. Nah, not at all. Okay, Drunken Master. I've got to let... Okay. There is one tweak you can make to this to make this like my favorite fucking monk in the entire game. Allow it to treat improvised weapons as monk weapons. You do that, this is such a fucking cool one. The problem is, if you're not in a horde combat, like multiple different enemies and stuff coming around you, this can be a little bit, you could feel like you don't have a whole lot of subclass features, but god damn, is this one ever cool. I really like what Sun Soul Monk wants to, or sorry, what Drunken Master wants to be. I would say that this one is probably up here. I'm going to put it in between Astral Self and Mercy. Deflecting the different attacks and everything, very fun. Like, when you use Flurry of Blows, you also get the disengage thing for free. Look, this should have been, oh my god, are you kidding me? Oh god, I love this one. This is such a, yes, give me that part of the kit, please. Hell yeah. I wish they would have stuck with this as like what the through line is for monks moving forward. I love this idea so much. Tipsy Sway, this is a decent, okay-ish idea in here. This is not really all that incredible though. This right here though with the redirect attack is very funny. The problem is if you're not absolutely surrounded by enemies or like ending your turn right next to an enemy, which you really shouldn't be doing anyways, this one just doesn't really do much of anything for you. That's kind of meh. Drunkard's Luck. When you make an ability check, an attack roll, or saving throw and have disadvantage on the roll, you can spend 2 key points to cancel the disadvantage for that roll. I don't know about doing the math on this one specifically, but like, I think that that's pretty worth it. That's pretty, yeah, I would take that. Yeah. Intoxicated Frenzy. You gain the ability to make an overwhelming number of attacks against a group of enemies. Whenever you use your Flurry of Blows, you can make up to 3 additional attacks with it, up to a total of 5 Flurry of Blows, provided that each attack targets a different creature this turn. Unfortunate for the last part of that, but god damn it was this one funny. I love this one so much. I want this to be better. There are some pretty core issues in here overall, but like, wow, the flavor this one got across was fucking fantastic. I would put this one in B. I would put it above Astral Self. Some people can disagree with me, and that's absolutely fine. I think that design-wise, they hit a lot of really fantastic themes with this one. Just the only thing that I do to accelerate this one up, there is some redesign stuff that you can do with this, but the core thing I think that they really need is the ability to treat improvised weapons as monk weapons. It doesn't do anything for a power spike. It is just an absolute flavor win. You do that, oh my god, I love this monk. Okay, so in general, I think that you would get the consensus that despite the fact that I have run some defense for the monk, I don't think that it's an overall great class. I think that it is probably viable at most, and it's going to take some work for you to really get the most out of it. Overall with 5e, and what I'm seeing for the future of this, whatever it is, whatever the fuck they're going to say, this is not a great class in its current state, and as I've seen it in the Unearthed Arcana, does not look like a fantastic glow up. I feel pretty bad for the monk. There's some cool aesthetic going on in here, but yeah, whatever console, if they're gonna hire consultants on this, the immediate fix that needs to happen here, and I'm shocked they didn't do it, is that the monk has to have disengage as a bonus action for free. Please do that, and then the monk is looking pretty good.